Good afternoon. How are we all this afternoon? Let me know if you are joining me live for this little talk this afternoon in Nora's group, or if you are coming on and joining in on the replay. Please leave a comment. Let me know that you what your thoughts are. If you have anything to add to this as well, that would be great. So I'm just going to do a quick check. If somebody could give me a sound check to let me know that you can hear me okay. I am using my headset and mic just so that I am going through my laptop. So I'm just going to do a quick check as well at my end, check that everything is where I'm supposed to be. So I think I can hear okay. Yeah, I think you can hear me okay. So we've got a few of you jumping on. I'm just going to give you a moment just to catch in with me. Let me know if you are joining me. If you have any questions, please sit them in the comments. I can check them as they come through, hopefully. Sometimes comments on StreamYard can be a little bit funny, but I have my phone beside me just for emergency as well, that I can hopefully see your comments as they come in. So I'll give you a moment just to jump on with me. If you are watching and you have any thoughts afterwards, or you're watching the replay, please add them to the comments and tag me. I'm in the group. Hi, it says Facebook user. I can't see who it is at the moment. But hello. And if you have any comments that come in to your head afterwards, any questions or anything, please stick them in the comments box. Tag me. I'm a member of Nora's group and an admin, so you can tag me and I should come up. And then I'll definitely see it. But I can pop in again later on today or tomorrow and just see if there's anything else new. So I shall just get going. My background, oh, Morrig, hi Morrig. My background is in fitness. I have been a fitness instructor for around about, or an instructor of different types. I started with yoga and moved into fitness for around about, trying to think now, 17 or 18 years now, I think, in total. So a wee while. So I'm used to moving my body and using my body and listening to my body. However, on New Year of 2012, New Year's Eve, I was absolutely fine. I had been fighting a bit of a virus for probably about 8 weeks previous to that, through the whole of kind of November, December, and that run up to Christmas, thinking I'm going to get a week or two off from work and from teaching. So I'm just going to push through and get this finished, get this done. And it's always, for an instructor, a busy time. It's for anyone, it's a busy time of year running up to Christmas and New Year. And I kind of pushed myself past where I wanted to, where I should have been. And I wasn't really at the stage of listening to my body at that time. It's been a big learning curve. And when you find yourself in the position that you have a chronic condition, whatever that may be, I mean, I'm going to kind of speak to you about things like post-viral fatigue, chronic fatigue, ME, which kind of get lumped together with the same name, Fibro, long COVID is the kind of newer one that's coming in, but they're all very, very similar. So I found myself kind of going through little dips and curves over that festive period. And then on New Year's Day, in fact, it was New Year's Eve, woke up and I was absolutely fine that morning. And by lunchtime, I had crashed, and I had crashed to the point where I actually didn't think I was going to come out of this alive. It was the most frightening, scary time of my life, and one that I have vowed I will never, ever allow to happen to me again. So it's been a kind of 9-year journey for me trying to get back to fitness. And I must admit, strangely enough, lockdown has been a bit of a saviour for me, because during that first year that we've had of this kind of whole COVID situation, my energy levels went up because I think it was less peoply. And I had more time to myself, which is kind of the things that we're going to go into as well today. And I know, so those of you in Nora's group, it is you're all carers, you're all caring for somebody who needs your attention, who needs you, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. So that's one thing that is really, really important to remember. We cannot pour from an empty cup. So things that you may have, and you might have all of these, you might have some of these, you might have more than these. I'm just going to kind of go into the main things, because I know for me, I had a lot of symptoms. It was like somebody had flicked a switch. It's like when you've got your computer, your laptop in front of you, or your phone, and it crashes and it opens up again, but it's not quite firing on all cylinders. Some of it works and some of it doesn't. And that's a bit like what my body was doing with me. Some of it wasn't working great. It was a little bit kind of glitchy, and other bits of it just wouldn't fire up at all. And that's the only way I can really describe it. It was like I was the computer. Somebody had flicked that switch, turned it off before it was ready to fire down or shut down. So it didn't shut down properly. And when it fired back up, everything was just firing wrong. And that is really the only way I can describe how it felt for me when I had initially post-viral fatigue. Then it was chronic fatigue syndrome they told me I had. And I will have this probably for the rest of my life. It's just learning your way, I guess, and how to manage your conditions. So things that you might feel, I've got my whiteboard in front of me so that I kind of try and go through everything with you. So you're going to feel drained. You're going to feel so washed out and drained that you have never felt like this before in your life. And when it hits you, you can't focus, you can't listen, you can't speak. Sometimes you can't walk, you can't stand up. Climbing the stairs, you're on your hands and knees. Coming down the stairs in the morning, if you're lucky to get that far, you maybe need to sit down before you put the kettle on. It can be as extreme as trying to get to the toilet in the morning for a pee and passing out. It can be as extreme as that, and I have had that experience as well. So it literally is that you are a battery that is on its last legs. That's what it feels like. You just haven't been charged overnight, and it's a horrible feeling. So waking up and you're still drained, you feel like you've not slept at all, but you know you have. You know you've slept, but you just feel as though you haven't. Or some nights you just don't sleep and you're wandering about the house at 4 o'clock in the morning, absolutely drained, absolutely shattered, but something's going on and you just don't know what it is. So your batteries are low. Your sleep is all over the place. You are shattered, you're tired all the time. And sometimes you can sleep, sometimes you fall asleep at the most inappropriate moments. And then when it comes to going to bed at night, you just can't sleep. Or you wake up in the morning and you just want to keep sleeping. So sleep is an issue, and although chronic fatigue, it's got that fatigue word in it, it's not about sleep. And that's what really bugged me, is because when somebody says we all get tired, yeah, we all get tired, but not the way I'm getting tired. This is not tiredness, this is something else. And unless you've experienced it, you just have not got a clue. And it's almost offensive it is offensive when somebody says that, but I had to kind of learn to just like you can't. It's not that I would say it to them, but I would have to say to myself, you can't understand, so I'm not even going to try and explain it to you, because you would be wasting your energy, and energy for me at that time was something I had to kind of hold on to. So you've got that thing as well of other people and their perception of you being lazy or whatever it is, always tired. Pains, strange pains, and I still get these sometimes, and I use them as warning signs quite often. Pain that can be usually starts down in my knees and into my hips. So it can be pain that's just like a kind of rheumatoid type pain, but you don't have rheumatoid. There's no markers in the body. There's nothing there. But sometimes it's like a little trigger. You get these pains. Stress, food, red wine is a definite one for me. Dehydration, tired again, fatigued. All these things can set it off. Weather, different things. There seems to be no rhyme or reason a lot of the time as well. So pains, shooting pains, nerves. So you might find that you get a shooting pain throughout your body as well, something that seems to go literally sometimes from your pinky toe all the way across your body to the opposite finger. It can be as random as that. Twitches, muscle twitches. I get a lot in my thigh, I get a lot in my butt. The eye is definitely one for me. Little muscle twitches, they can be anywhere in your body, sometimes the arm, and you can literally see it's like somebody's put a TENS machine on you. So, lots of different signals and things that come up in the body. Your breath, your lungs, I used to describe it as feeling, and I still do, describe it as though, do you remember those hairy doormats that we used to get when we were wee? I'm 53, so my mum had one of those thick hairy doormats, and I describe it as though trying to breathe through a dirty doormat. That's what it feels like. It's like there's something stopping you from getting a good breath in. Stimulation, sensitive to things. So if it feels like you're overstimulated all the time. You've got brain fog, you can't think straight, your attention's all over the place. You just want to shut your eyes, you just want to go into a dark room, you just want to put the earplugs in, hear nothing. Things that wouldn't normally irritate you, maybe irritate you, certain lights, certain situations, traffic, traveling, in public transport, just even somebody having a radio on in the next room, that really bugs me. Sometimes I come in the house and my husband's got the radio on really loud. I just can't. It has to go off, and then he'll come back in much and, what'd you do that for? I was listening to that. But it's too much. It's too much, and the brain just can't handle it. And focus. I struggle to focus. I need to wear my glasses most days now, and I don't wear them for anything else but reading. But I can, in the mornings, wake up and it's like I'm looking through a cloudy film. And it usually now is gone by sort of mid-morning, lunchtime. But I remember it could last until I was, sort of half three, kids. I'm looking after grandkids now and things, but it would last until half three, and then my eyes would suddenly clear, and then it would start again the next day, and it was a constant thing. So I never wore glasses until I had chronic fatigue syndrome. I just cannot focus on anything now to read. And I have to take them to the shops as well, because otherwise I have picked up the wrong thing before. Picked up a card for my grandson that was for a grandparent because it had the word grand in it, or it had a G. So what can you do when you are constantly kind of living in this? It's like having a battery and constantly living on that bottom layer of charge. You never really seem to get fully up to charge. The first thing I have to say is, please don't feel guilty about it. You have to do you, and it's really difficult, but accepting that this is your life now is really, really hard. You mustn't feel guilty about it. This has happened for a reason. And looking back, for me, the reason it happened to me was I was teaching classes at my local gym. I was teaching classes in the community. I was also working on my own fitness goals. So I was running a lot, and I was lifting a lot of weights, and I was not just teaching, but doing spinning classes as well. So some days I was working out more than once a day. Sometimes I was working out in the morning for myself or teaching, and then at the opposite end of the day I was doing teaching or working out for myself. And some teaching would be more than one class. So sometimes I was doing 3 sets of things a day. And that was quite taxing on the body in itself. But add on to that, that I was dealing with a huge amount of stress with teenage family at the time. And it was a stressful time because firstly they didn't get on as your kids do, but it's that kind of teenage stage where they're finding themselves and they're fighting you all the time, and maybe they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And I'll leave it at that. But it was a stressful time family-wise as well. And so when I kind of got hit by a virus in October, late October that year, it was literally the straw that broke the camel's back for me. But I didn't. I tried to still juggle all these balls in the air and keep them all going and keep them all up. And then eventually, each and every one of them came crashing down. And so your story might be completely different to mine. How you came to your chronic condition might be completely different to mine. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't feel guilty about it. We really shouldn't. The difficult thing comes when we still have somebody who's relying on us to look after them, to be there, to be that person. So like I said right at the start, we cannot pour from an empty cup. We have to give ourselves, we have to allow ourselves time. We have to give ourselves a little bit of love as well. So the first thing that I will say is that a lot of what's going on for us is not always about, because we get that push and crash thing when we exercise. If we think of the stress response in the body, when we get stressed in the body, certain chemicals are released, and these chemicals that are released have an effect on every other chemical in our body. So the balance changes. So it's just maybe the easiest way to think about it. Also, our brain uses a massive chunk of that energy that we've got in our battery just to be. It's doing so much all the time. So allowing yourself time out. You know, when a kid gets overwhelmed, we give him or her time out. We don't give ourselves time out at all nowadays. We think that we've just got to be that person that can keep going, driving on, pushing on. We'll get to bed, we'll sleep for maybe 6 hours, and then we'll do it all again the next day. It's just, we're not giving ourselves time to down regulate. And that's when one thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. We ignore the warning signs, we push through, and then we crash. And then once you have got to that stage where you're living with one of these chronic conditions, that push and crash becomes so extreme. There's just no warning, no control. You don't get the little trigger signs sometimes, or you do and you ignore them, or you haven't recognized it, and then you crash. And that's where we really need to allow ourselves just some time. We have to allow ourselves some time. We are important as well. You are important. Down regulation is what I kind of call it in my classes, down regulating. If you think about it, when you do something really that's really kind of used your brain, or it's used all your energy, we just need that time. We need time to kind of down regulate, to reset, recharge. So down regulating, and quite often what needs down regulated is our nervous system. We are living on the edge every day, all day, and especially just now. I do not follow the media. I can't give it the headspace. And especially just now, I just can't give it the headspace. And it, when I do hear it or I hear somebody speaking about it, it just starts that kind of thing again of too much information overload. Our nervous systems are just we're living in that fight or flight all day, every day. And so we need to allow ourselves time to come away from there, to 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 focus on something else, and to not feel guilty about not being up to date with what the latest, it's changing from one week to the next, what the latest government regulations are. If I need to know, somebody will definitely tell me. Somebody in my family will usually tell me so that I know, because they know I'm not listening to it. So down regulating your nervous system, how can you do this? There are ways that you can do this. You can keep a diary or keep a log, and you can keep it in your calendar, keep it on your phone, get a little something, an app on your phone, or just even notes, or just something that you maybe write in daily, and have a little bit at the bottom, how did your day go? What happened? Did something set you off? Did you have a crash? What was the run up to this? Looking at what happened before that and recognizing your triggers for these situations. Quite often we miss the triggers, or we kind of bypass them. So to have that kind of note where you can look back and go, oh God, yeah, that happened to me last week. And then I had that same situation because it was such and such a day, and I had the same experience. I had the same crash, or I had the same pains, whatever it is, headache, whatever it is that you feel. So just recognizing that and writing it down and accepting, well, what can I do to change this? How can I work with this to make it better for me? So thinking about your triggers, it could be that you've maybe not planned your meals that day. You've maybe missed a meal. You've maybe eaten the wrong foods. It may be that you're dehydrated. You've had a bit too much caffeine. It could be that you have a certain day with a certain person that just triggers you. So being aware of all these things, it can be many, many things. And what is a trigger for one person may not be a trigger for the next. So bear that in mind. Things that also can help to kind of keep you on this kind of level, as it were, because to get from crash to here, it's a long journey. I have to admit, I'm on year 9 and it's taking me 9 years, and this is the best I've felt in 9 years. However, the last 2 Saturdays I've had crashes, and I've literally not moved from the sofa for the 2 Saturdays in the last 2 weeks. And I know that it's stress. I know that it's stress. It's a stress that is out of my control, and I'm damn sure I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen next Saturday. So I'm going to avoid that situation. So it may be that you have to just put something aside at the moment, and don't feel guilty about it, because it's what is going to work for you. You cannot allow yourself to get to that stage again where you're going to crash, or you're going to crash as low. So if you are still at that kind of push and crash stage, maybe making sure that your crashes are not as severe. Things that we can do every day, and I call these the controllables, because they are things that are within your control. So making sure that you're aware of your triggers and you're finding out what your triggers are. So keeping a diary or a log. Thinking about your nutrition is really important. Thinking about the carbohydrates that you eat, the sugars that you have. Sugar has a massive inflammatory response in the body. And I'm definitely very sensitive to sugary things and white carbs, which again are quick release sugars. So thinking about your carbohydrates, can you switch your white and your pale and your greys for more nutritionally dense carbohydrates. Things about thinking like your what's on your plate as well. Your dark leafy vegetables are really, really nutritious. They're going to give you a lot of the nutrients that we need in our bodies. And they're also going to give you your carbohydrates, your fruits and your veg, but they're not going to be such a quick release. So as well as that, you're going to encourage good gut bacteria. I think a lot of it comes from a lot of what happens to us comes from deep within our, I mean, our bellies are actually here, but from deep within our bodies, and this is where the healing is going to come from as well. So dark green leafy veg is great. So things like broccoli, I eat broccoli every single day now. I never used to, but I eat broccoli every single day. So thinking about your nutrition, stay away from your quick fix stuff that you are seeing all over social media just now. They are not going to work for you. You really need to think about what's on your plate and keeping that good. A good source of protein with every single meal. So that includes breakfast. A good source of protein. And I'm not going to go too much into this because it's a kind of talk on its own, but vegetarian, vegan, and meat eating options are all available. So a good source of protein with every meal. And thinking about balancing your blood sugar levels. So I find that at times for me, I need to kind of eat my 3 meals a day, and I maybe need a little snack in between. It really all depends on what I'm doing. This is my dining room. When I'm teaching, the table gets shoved out the room, but it depends what I'm doing from day to day and what I'm teaching. So balancing your blood sugar levels, your better carbs, your dark leafy veg, and your other fruit and vegetables as well, they should be half your plate in your fruit and veg. Carbohydrates a quarter of your plate and protein a quarter of your plate. If you think about it in that way, that's a good way to kind of balance it out. And that's with each meal. I do find that I need to give my gut a rest. I don't give it a rest for like a 24-hour or an 18-hour fast. 16 is the max I will go without starting to crash. So these are kind of little steps that you might want to think about, but our gut needs to rest. Otherwise, it's like the brain, it's constantly working away, which we're doing nowadays, especially if we're on social media and then we've got the news in the evening, and then maybe we're watching something scary on telly. I don't know what you do, or you've got something in your family situation that is constantly in the background. So my grandson is autistic, and he likes to talk. He likes to stim or spin, whatever you want to call it. And he likes to flip upside down when he's sitting right beside you on the sofa. And that is, it's constantly there. So I am aware that we all have situations that are going on that are out with our control. So thinking about that, keep your blood sugars balanced. Hydration is a massive one for me. If you are one of these people who needs to get up through the night to pee, let's aim for hydration as soon as you wake up and continuing for at least the first part of the day, and maybe even till sort of 3:30, get that hydration in. Depending what you do, depending what age you are, if you have female sweats, sometimes your condition can cause you to sweat as well. Medication, the temperature of the room that you're in, and you know what you're doing. If you're exercising, you may need to up your hydration, or you may need to just kind of level it out. So the body needs around about 2 liters of water a day just for basic functions. So thinking about 2 liters of water a day for your minimum, and if you are exercising, you might want to bring it up to 2.5, maybe 3 if you're having sweats as well. And in the evening, you might just want to sip your water so that you can get through the night without having to get up and go for a pee, and you can try and get that good night's sleep. So hydration is definitely one for me. If I am dehydrated, I get brain fog. I get twitches, I get the shooting pains. I just generally feel blah. I feel horrendous, headachy. Recognize the signs, really, and plan out your hydration. Before you even do anything else in the morning, have a drink of water. If tap water is too cold for you, I like to top mine up with a little splash of hot water out the kettle. So I'll brew my tea and I'll have my sort of lukewarm water while my tea is brewing, and that's kind of how I start my day, with two cups of liquid before I eat anything or before I teach anything. It's the way that I've found that my body and my brain function best. Let's see, sleep hydration, hygiene, I should say. Sleep hygiene. So thinking about your routine at night, there are some things that we can't get away from. You may have other people around you that have a kind of different sleep pattern. And there are two types of people. I am definitely one of these types of people that does not like to go to bed early. But I am shattered and I'm trying to make myself go to bed a little bit earlier, even if it's 15 minutes, half an hour early. Even if I just sit in bed and read, just down-regulating my nervous system again, giving my brain time to kind of get into that mode where, okay, we're quieting things down, we're going to go to sleep. Thinking about if you are on your computer, your laptop, these things late at night, if that's when you catch up with stuff or with friends or just have your moment of kind of downtime, thinking about the blue light, because blue light up until 2.5, 3 hours before bed, it stimulates our brains. So thinking about that, can you block that out somehow? Can you either not do it? And I must admit, I do a lot of my prep for the next day and social media posts for the next day in the evening. But I've started wearing the darker glasses. They're in the other room, I think. But they have made a huge difference to me. It just seems to not stimulate my brain so much, and I do go to sleep a lot better. You can look at supplementation. Now, although I have some nutrition certificates, I am not a nutritionalist or a dietitian, so my advice is just general. But what works for me is magnesium. And I take magnesium as soon as I've had my dinner at night. I take it in the evening, and just sometimes I take 1 tablet, sometimes I take 2. Magnesium is something that goes deep into the cells of our bodies. And if you want to do a little bit of Googling on magnesium, you can, or I can post some information throughout this week for you if you would like it in the comments. Citrate or glycinate are the ones we want to look at. Citrate can give you a little bit of tummy upset. Glycinate, magnesium glycinate, is the one I use. And it goes deep into a cellular level in our body, and it's something that every cell needs to help with making other chemical reactions with other nutrients and with other cell the word's gone out my head, but with the things that the cells do. So you're making energy and things for the body and things like that. But also it's really, really fantastic for sleep. It's great for sleep. Or just a kind of nervous disposition as well. I find it just helps you it's an interesting one. It just helps. I feel almost like a warmth coming through my body sometimes if I'm really, really up. It's like a kind of warmth coming through my body, and that, like you've just been hugged and you just go. So magnesium is one that I use. I make sure I get my vitamin D with K. So vitamin D and K, and I use a spray. I use that in the morning. Anytime before lunchtime, I use that. Or get out in the sunshine if you are living somewhere that has sunshine, but on the west coast of Scotland, there's not much of that around. B12 complex, I don't use that every day, but I do use it on the days where I am really struggling. So B vitamin 12 complex. Other things, and these are just really generally useful, especially in the climate that we're living in at the moment, is vitamin C and zinc. So if you are looking at the supplementation side, these are things that I find are useful for me. And that has been a big trial and error thing over the years with supplements as well. You can spend a fortune, but all these ones are the ones that are not so expensive as well, which is great. And it can be very difficult to get these from our plate, from our foods as well. So, other things that we can do. If you are looking to restart exercise and you're living with a chronic condition that depletes your energy, that you crash with, I definitely advise strength before cardio. Definitely strength before cardio. Cardio is going to deplete your muscles of energy. Strength is going to deplete your muscles of energy, but it's also going to strengthen those muscles and it's going to help you feel better. At times, when I was at my kind of hardest stage of recovery, so near the beginning, and when I'm saying that, I'm talking about the first 4 years. Any exercise that I did would leave me probably 72 hours later feeling absolutely dished. I had a whole day where I couldn't do anything after that. So I really had to think about what I was doing. And sometimes for me, movement and exercise would be as much as being on my hands and knees and leaning against the sofa or a chair like so. I'm going to put that up and just doing one press up, and that would be it. That was some days as much as I could manage. In the early stages of chronic fatigue syndrome, that would be my limit, twice a week. And I was used to lifting heavy weights. So it's about learning a lot about what your body is capable of. Doing less is often more. So doing less can often be more. I never now push my body to max. I know I have learnt the hard way, and especially being an instructor, that when I decide to go heavier in the weights, I need to make sure I've got a day or two after that to recover. I just cannot recover the same. I cannot do a hard day of cardio or weights or exercise and expect my body to do something else the next day. It just doesn't work. I will lose the words, I will lose the brain power, and I will lose strength. I also suggest that if you are trying to come back to exercise after a post-viral condition, or if you're living with a longer term condition, ME fibro, that you maybe get a watch that's got a heart rate monitor, so you can check as well that your heart rate has not gone up a little bit. So days where you might find that you're more irritable, that your battery's running low, you quite often find that your heart rate's maybe a little bit high. But also what this has helped me do as somebody who exercises regularly is that I can make sure that I don't allow my heart rate to go to max. If my heart rate goes to max, I don't recover. So it's just about finding that balance. We're all going to be different, but finding that balance that works for you. You know, there's nothing wrong with 5 or 10 minutes exercise, even if the person that you used to exercise with, or your friend, is going to class and doing 40 minutes, 60 minutes of a class. If what you can do is 5 or 10 minutes or one press up, then that's what you do. Something that works for me, and I still do this often, And I did this daily, is that I would just go to bed or go to the bedroom or just find a quiet space in the house, lay on the floor or sit on the sofa, put the headphones in, and I had an app for mindfulness. Find somebody with a voice that you relate to. The one that I love, and you might want to note this down, is Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson, John. I can't even spell. I'm going to have to write it down. Johnst. Johnston. Andrew Johnson. He's got a Scottish voice. So if you love a Scottish voice, he has the most soothing voice. And he just kind of takes you on a little guided talk. And that was something I did every single day. A switch off for my brain. So it's about that down regulating of the nervous system again. Coming out of that fight and flight and just allowing ourselves to be. Our brains are expected to be on 24/7. And if you look at the way we live now to the way man lived thousands of years ago, it's just unbelievable the difference. When we think about maybe when we lived in caves or we lived simple lives, we didn't have stimulation all the time that we have now. We weren't expected to be at the end of the phone 24/7 or at the end of emails and all these things that we have now. Our brains have to rest. We have to rest the brain. If we don't rest our brain, we are becoming overstimulated. And that's when we start that kind of path to the crash. So allow your brain rest time, and however you manage that, a bath, a book, a mindfulness app, finding somebody that you can go for a walk in nature with, or go for a walk in nature yourself. If you've got a dog, you're lucky. You can take the dog and just go somewhere that you find a comfortable atmosphere for you, comfortable place for you, somewhere that you are not having to think about stuff, somewhere you can just completely switch off. The more recent thing for me, so I know that most of you in Nora's group are in Birmingham, so you probably won't have this opportunity, but I have started on the west coast of Scotland, and not in a big group, just with 2 friends. We just go and we just dunk ourselves in the cold Scottish sea, and you literally cannot think of anything else but your breath and the cold water until you get out. And I must admit that for me is working at the moment. So that's kind of my thing just now, and nobody is expecting. One of the girls has ME, one of the other girls has a high-powered job, and for us it's just time just to we don't need to speak to each other while we're doing it. We'll have a little chit chat there and back, and that's our thing at the moment. So find something that allows you to just switch off from everyday stuff. That the expectations of you, and if that means asking somebody for help so that you can have your 10-15 minutes, then ask for help. Don't be embarrassed about asking for help. That is, there's something to be said for allowing your brain time to rest. Something that I find really works for me, as a fitness instructor particularly, and somebody who, my husband is quite high energy, my grandkids are high energy, and I see them most days, and I see my daughter most days. But something that I find that I have to do for myself is I have a task, and then either side of that task, I have my rest period. Even if it's 15 minutes of just sitting down on the sofa and pretending I'm scrolling on my phone, or just sitting down on the sofa, put the headphones in, breathe for a moment, whatever it is that works for you, a book, whatever it is, somewhere quiet. And I don't need to do it as much nowadays, but I definitely, even last year, still had to use this kind of technique. I have to have time before and after a task. So just recognizing where you can fit these into your day as well. Can you give yourself 5 minutes every day to sit down and breathe, to just refocus, to allow yourself time to still the brain? It's amazing how much difference that will make. Something that I have definitely noticed in myself, in my own body with my symptoms, is when I said at the start about that hairy doormat in my breath, I find that I don't use this part of my lungs, or I didn't use this part of my lungs as much as I should have. So whether that's bringing something like a cushion to that area, or your hands, or just bringing your awareness to the area at the base of your lungs, so the back of your waist and even down towards the top area of your pelvis, and directing your breath down to that area. So just filling your lungs and sighing it out, and just that one breath just kind of brings us down as well. And I know it sounds a little bit kind of like airy fairy, but you know, these things work. There's a reason that these things are out there. They do work. And this is where I had kind of, even with the yoga background, completely forgotten about until I found myself unwell and had to, you know, my husband said to me for a year, you know how to heal yourself. You just need to do the stuff. And it's just refocusing and refocusing every day. So let me think. Have I gone through everything on my board? Yeah, allow yourself time out. Don't allow yourself to get to overwhelm. That's when we just don't know which direction to go in. We feel it up here. And just take yourself out of the situation. Take yourself somewhere quiet if you can. I know it's not always possible, but if you can find a way to do that every day, just to bring yourself back to you, I hope that kind of helps you. So I think that is me. I'm going in the sea in 10 minutes, so I need to go. And it's starting to get dark. It's probably going to be cold. So I hope that was really helpful for you. Please, in the comments below, if you've got anything that kind of goes, oh my God, yes, that's me. Yep, I'm going to try that. Or what do you think of this? Any questions, please pop them in the comments. Tag me if you like. I will come back in this evening and double check and see if there's anything else come up. There's probably a lot more I can say for you. This is just kind of what I've written down, and it's a lot. It's nearly an hour. I was thinking I'll be about 30 minutes, but there's so much. I mean, this is a whole area on its own. What I will say, last comment from me, is don't just do some of the stuff. You need to do all the things. You have to do all the things, because if you don't do all the things and you let one thing go, it grows. You have to do all the things. So you have to kind of do your down regulation of the nervous system, let your brain rest, find your triggers, work on them. Nutrition, hydration, sleep hygiene, time out. You have to do all of the things. Let your brain rest, I think, is one of the more important ones, because there's a reason you have become overstimulated, you've pushed yourself so far, and now you get the crash. So allow yourself to start to bring in all these things, and I definitely recommend keeping a log, keeping a diary. So I hope that was all useful information for you. There's a lot. You probably might want to come back and listen to it in stages, especially if your energy isn't there for a whole thing. You might need to do it in little sort of 10-minute slots. Write down anything that flags for you, definitely, and come back to this. It may be that this week you hear something and next week you hear something else that you didn't hear today. So I hope that was useful. Please let me know in the comments. I have to go and get my costume on, so I'll catch in later. Bye.